best when we take a look at the energy in this community, when we take a look at the energy here. Amazing things happen in this community. The areas of affordable housing is something that we've been working very hard at, you know, that through Jenny's work, but we as well made that a priority in the last election. We said the government had to get back in the business of building affordable housing, that it wasn't good enough to leave it up to others or to negotiations between developers and city, that the government actually needed to put money on the table and get into building affordable housing again. We haven't specified the number of units because we said the ideal partnership would be the provincial and federal government both coming to the table along with the city to be able to build that affordable housing. But right now the government has $250 million in the Housing Trust Fund. They're using the interest from that fund. We've said when there's a crisis in our province, why would we use the interest, take that $250 million and start building affordable housing? Now, that money should be used now. The money's there, you shouldn't be using the interest, you should be using it now to build affordable housing. So that's a priority for us. On the issue of income assistance rates and welfare rates, yes, we know that the issue needs to be dealt with. We made some small steps in the platform in this last election where we said we need to look at earnings exemptions, not simply for people living on disabilities, but for everyone, income assistance. That's not going to solve the problem, but at least it provides a little bit of opportunity for people to be able to bring in additional dollars. And then we've said we have to look at the issue around indexing income assistance rates so you can start seeing a regular increase to her. And then, as we also have said, the affordable housing piece is key. If you deal with the housing piece and address the housing piece, then you take some of that pressure off around the issues that are there. And then community supports, I guess I just want to close by just, and then Jenny might want to add something, but just talking about the community supports, whether it's not-for-profit agencies, whether it's community agencies, whether it's community associations that have come together. You know, I grew up in James Bay that has a very strong community network, and I've seen the strength of that network. And to me, that's also part of the fabric of the community. Government needs to provide support to the not-for-profit, to the community associations, because often you are the groups and organizations that people come to when they can't get the support somewhere else, when they would push from somewhere else. This is the fabric of the community. And I'm worried that we're also seeing that eroded right now. It's not simply the housing issues and the lack of supports. You're also seeing support withdrawn for not-for-profit associations, for community associations. That will unravel that fabric in a community, and that will cause damage in the same way that other supports will cause damage. So it's another piece that we have to work on.
Rent controls?
Oh, rent control. Sorry. Yes, we put forward a proposal around addressing a whole range of tenant issues. It's not simply, as you know better than anyone, it's not simply rent controls. It's the ability for people to get around rent controls, even if they're there. It's the lack of ability for people to be able to have appeals when things go wrong and feeling that they don't have opportunities. It's the damage control, damage deposit issues. So we've said the entire Tenancy Act has to be looked at. And we have to find balance.
And maybe you could connect it to the SRA bylaw. Maybe there's a rent control that can just go with the hotels.
So link the two together.
Yeah.
What about actual welfare rates, not just indexing us so that the poverty continues?
Yeah. No, we recognize that needs to be looked at. Right now, what we're doing is going through a process of how we can come up with, and we proposed legislation last session, so we'll do it again this session, to actually look at requiring governments of all political stripes, regardless of who's in, to actually measure poverty and have a plan to reduce poverty in British Columbia. Other provinces have done it. Newfoundland and Ontario both have proposals around how you actually reduce poverty. That gets reported out to the public, not inside the government, so it actually holds the government of any political stripe accountable for poverty reduction. We've said the government needs to move on that, and we're committed to making sure that we put a proposal forward that does that, and that has to include income assistance rates.
If I could just add just a couple of very quick things. On the housing piece, prior to 2001, when we were in government, and even without the federal government's assistance, we were building approximately 1,200 units of affordable housing each year, and that's our provincial money alone. When the Vancouver Agreement was established, we recognized that one of the key things that needed to be an anchor for our community here, and at that time we identified 600 units of affordable housing was needed in our community. And so that was, many years ago, and we've now, several elections later. But sort of as a benchmark, right? And those were the kind of numbers that we were looking at. And forward going in terms of what the future looks like, obviously there are many issues related. So I just want to put that there. And Carole's already said, and you guys have been calling for it as well on the endowment money's just sitting there collecting interest, which is absurd when we have a homelessness crisis at the level in which we do. I also want to say, and people in the community, for sure, virtually everyone around this table would have been working on this, on the national housing strategy. The feds pulled out in 1993 with not had federal monies in a substantive way, in a sustainable way, and people have called for what's called 1% solution, and we've backed that a long time, and that's 1% of the federal budget being invested into affordable housing and building affordable and cooperative housing. Rental evictions, you know, you guys have all seen it, and particularly in this community, it's the hardest hit on the SROs and the closure and the conversions. I don't want us to go through all of that because you know about the history of that. And so that's a major piece in terms of revamping the Residential Tenancy Act, no doubt about it. The other thing that's specific to this riding, and I've actually put forward private members' motions or private members' bills, calling on specific attack on that piece and holding the rent, and particularly in advance of the Olympic years, right? So those, again, was several years ago, because at the time we should have done it in order to hold it in check so that people don't end up in the loss of the SRO in the rate in which it is. And again, those all fell on deaf ears, that government did not want them. So just put that out there. And Carole's already touched on the poverty strategy, which is the ultimate thing that we need to do, have a long-term strategy to eradicate